Have you ever felt something was off about someone, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it? They say all the right things. They smile at all the right moments, but deep down, something feels wrong. Carl Jung discovered that most people look for the wrong signs when trying to spot fake people. They watch for nervousness, for slips in the story, for obvious lies. But Jung found that the real danger signs are the opposite. The most fake people aren't the ones who mess up. They're the ones who never mess up at all. Jung called this identification with the persona, and once you understand what he discovered, you'll never miss these signs again. Because the truth is, fake people don't reveal themselves through their mistakes. They reveal themselves through their perfection. And that perfection is exactly what makes them so dangerous. Let me show you the specific pattern Jung identified that 99% of people completely miss. Because once you see it, you'll realize you've encountered this before. You just didn't know what you were looking at. Jung spent decades working with patients in his clinic in Zurich, and he noticed something disturbing. Some of his most troubled patients weren't the ones who came in crying or admitting their problems. The most dangerous ones walked in with perfect posture, perfect stories, and perfect smiles. They had an answer for everything. They never contradicted themselves. They seemed to have their lives completely together. But Jung saw through it. He called it identification with the persona. The persona is the mask we all wear in public. It's the version of ourselves we show to the world. We all have one. That's normal. That's healthy. Jung understood the persona as a necessary bridge between the ego and society. But some people take it too far. They wear the mask so long that they forget there's a face underneath. The mask becomes their entire identity. And when that happens, Jung said, you're dealing with someone who has become unconscious of their own shadow. Here's why understanding this matters to your actual life. When someone identifies completely with their persona, they're not just hiding their real self from you. They're hiding it from themselves. They've buried everything real so deep that they don't even know it's there anymore. Their shadow, all those parts of themselves they can't accept, gets pushed down into the unconscious. And it doesn't just disappear. It grows. It gets darker. It gets stronger, like pressure building in a sealed container with no release valve. Jung discovered that these people show a specific warning sign: uncanny perfection. They never have bad days. They never say the wrong thing. They never show anger, sadness, or fear at the wrong time. Everything about them feels smooth, rehearsed, performed. And most people think this is a good thing. They think, wow, this person really has it together. But Jung knew better. Because here's what he understood about human psychology. Real human beings are messy. We contradict ourselves. We have bad days. We say things we regret. We show emotions that don't match the situation. That's not a flaw. That's proof we're actually real. That's proof there's a genuine person underneath the social performance. But people identified with the persona can't afford that. Their entire existence depends on maintaining the perfect image. So they control everything, every word, every expression, every gesture, every micro movement of their face. Think about the last time you met someone like this. Maybe it was at work. Maybe it was someone your friend introduced you to. Maybe it was a new romantic interest. They seemed amazing at first. Too amazing. They said exactly what you wanted to hear. They laughed at exactly the right moments. They showed interest in exactly the right things. It felt like meeting someone custom designed for you. And this is where it gets really disturbing. Because when you talk to someone like this, even though they're saying nice things, even though they're smiling and nodding and seeming to care, something feels empty. You walk away from conversations with them feeling drained, feeling hollow, feeling like you just talked to a robot instead of a person. Jung described this as a lack of soul or vitality in the interaction. It's your unconscious mind picking up on the fact that there's no real person there. Just a performance, just a mask with nothing authentic behind it. Your gut knows something's wrong, but your conscious mind can't figure out what. Because logically, this person is perfect. They're saying all the right things. They're doing all the right things. There's nothing you can point to and say, see, that's the problem. But the problem isn't what they're doing. The problem is what they're not doing. They're not being real. They're not being human. They're being a carefully constructed character designed to get what they want from you. But the perfection isn't even the most dangerous part. This is critical to understand. The most dangerous part is what happens when you threaten their mask. Because remember, for these people, the mask isn't just an act they put on. It's their entire identity. It's all they have. Without the mask, they don't exist. They don't know who they are. So when you challenge it, when you question it, when you accidentally poke a hole in it, they don't just get defensive, they explode. Jung documented this pattern over and over in his clinical work. He observed that individuals who maintain an unnaturally perfect social presentation will exhibit disproportionate reactions when their constructed image faces any threat. This is what Jung called ego inflation, or the ego identifying with something beyond its capacity to integrate. Not because you did something terrible, but because you made them look bad. You made other people see a crack in the mask, and they can't allow that. Their entire psychological structure depends on everyone believing the performance. This is a classic manifestation of ego defense mechanisms operating at maximum intensity. But it's not normal defensiveness. It's not someone getting upset because you hurt their feelings. Empaths aren't broken. They're alchemists in progress. The Alchemist's Path gives you drills, Jung-based boundaries, and 3 exclusive chapter videos to turn overwhelm into clarity. By Surreal Mind, 236-page downloadable ebook in stock. Begin now at thesurrealmind.com. It's someone destroying you because you threatened their existence. They don't just argue back, they gaslight you, they twist reality, they make you question your own perceptions, they recruit other people to their side, they tell everyone you're crazy, you're unstable, you're the problem. They turn everyone against you, all to protect the mask. Let me give you a composite example based on patterns Jung extensively documented in his therapeutic practice. Imagine a colleague at work who's known for being helpful, professional, and always calm. Everyone loves them. Everyone trusts them. Then one day in a meeting, you politely disagree with one of their ideas. Just a normal professional disagreement. Nothing personal, nothing aggressive, but their reaction is completely disproportionate. They don't just defend their idea. They make it seem like you attacked them personally. They bring up every time they've helped you. They question your competence. They make you look unreasonable in front of everyone. And they do it all while maintaining that calm, professional demeanor. That's the mask protecting itself. And here's the thing that makes this so insidious. They genuinely believe they're the victim. They genuinely believe you attacked them for no reason, because they can't see their own mask. They can't see their own shadow. All they know is that you made them feel exposed, and that feeling is unbearable, so you must be evil. You must be the problem. You must be the one who's fake, who's manipulative, who's causing trouble. This brings us to Jung's concept of shadow projection. This is when someone accuses you of the exact things they're doing themselves. The person who constantly accuses others of lying is usually the biggest liar. The person who's always talking about how manipulative everyone else is usually the most manipulative person in the room. The person who claims everyone else is fake is often the fakest person you'll ever meet. The person who constantly warns you about people trying to control you is often the one controlling you. Why does this happen? Jung explained it through his theory of the shadow. The shadow is everything about ourselves we can't accept. Everything we've been taught is bad, wrong, unacceptable. We don't destroy these parts of ourselves. We can't. They're part of us. but we can deny them. We can push them down into the unconscious where we don't have to look at them. And since we can't look at them in ourselves, our unconscious mind projects them onto other people. We see our own darkness in everyone around us, and we attack it there, thinking we're fighting evil, when really we're just fighting ourselves. This is why the most judgmental people are often the ones doing exactly what they judge others for. The person who rants about cheaters? Check their phone. The person who can't stop talking about how fake everyone is? Watch how they change their personality depending on who they're talking to. The person who warns you constantly about manipulative people? Notice how they're the one always trying to influence your decisions, your relationships, your perception of reality. Jung observed this dynamic repeatedly in therapeutic settings. When someone maintains an idealized self-image, everything contradicting that image must be attributed to external sources. A narrative illustration of this pattern shows how someone who sees themselves as endlessly patient and kind, but who is actually controlling and passive-aggressive, cannot acknowledge their controlling nature because it contradicts their self-image. So when they manipulate you into doing what they want, and you resist, they accuse you of being controlling. When they passive-aggressively punish you with silence or subtle digs, and you get frustrated, they accuse you of being angry and unreasonable. They're seeing their own behavior, but they're seeing it in you instead of themselves. And the worst part, they're often very convincing, because they believe their own story completely. When they accuse you of being manipulative, they genuinely believe it. When they tell everyone you're the problem, they genuinely believe it. There's no conscious deception happening, which makes it almost impossible to defend against. How do you prove you're not doing something when the accuser genuinely believes you are, and they've projected their own behavior onto you so completely that they can cite examples that are actually their own actions reframed through a distorted lens? Jung warned that these people are psychologically dangerous, not because they're consciously evil, but because they're unconscious of their own shadow. They destroy relationships, careers, families, all while believing they're the good guy. They genuinely think they're the victim. They genuinely think they're fighting against manipulation, cruelty, fakeness, when really, they're the source of all those things. They're fighting themselves, and you're just the screen they're projecting onto. But there's a pattern Jung warned about that we might call the savior complex. Some people identified with the persona don't present as perfect in an obvious way. They don't walk around talking about how great they are. They present as endlessly helpful, endlessly kind, endlessly giving. They're always there when you need them. They always know just what to say. They always offer to help. They volunteer for things. They remember your birthday. They bring you coffee. They listen to your problems. And at first, it feels amazing. Finally, someone who cares. Finally, someone who gets it. Finally, someone who's not selfish. You feel grateful. You feel lucky to have them in your life. You think, this is what a real friend looks like. This is what a good person looks like. But then you notice something. Their help always comes with strings attached. It's never freely given. Every favor becomes a debt. Every kind word becomes leverage. They keep track of everything they've done for you. Not openly at first, but it's there. And they bring it up, subtly or not so subtly, whenever they want something from you, or whenever they want to control you, or whenever they want to make you feel guilty for not doing what they want. Jung understood something crucial about authentic compassion versus performed generosity. True giving is not a transaction. When someone genuinely cares about you, they help because they want to see you happy, successful, healthy. Not because they want something from you, not because they're building up credit they can cash in later. But for people identified with the persona of the perfect helper, their kindness is transactional. They're not helping because they care. They're helping because it maintains their image and, gives them power over you. We can examine this dynamic through a composite case study, reflecting patterns Jung observed across multiple patients in his clinical practice. Consider someone in your life who's always the first to offer help. They drive you to the airport. They help you move. They listen to you vent about your problems for hours. They bring you soup when you're sick. And it all seems so genuine, so caring. But then one day, you can't help them with something. Maybe you're busy. Maybe you're dealing with your own crisis. Maybe you just need to say no for your own well-being. And suddenly everything changes. They bring up every single thing they've ever done for you. They make you feel like the most ungrateful person alive. They tell you, after everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? They make you feel like you owe them, like you're betraying them by having boundaries. That's what happens when helping becomes a neurotic compulsion rather than authentic care. And it's insidious because it makes you feel like you're the bad guy. You start questioning yourself. Maybe I am ungrateful. Maybe I do owe them. Maybe I'm being selfish. But here's what Jung understood about the human psyche. If someone's reminding you of everything they've done for you, it wasn't authentic generosity. It was investment. And now they're calling in the debt. Jung famously said, "I'd rather be whole than good." This is what he meant. These people are so attached to appearing good, appearing perfect, appearing generous, that they've lost touch with their wholeness. They've denied their shadow so completely that they can't be authentic anymore. They can only perform. And that performance always comes with a price. Nobody's perfect. Real people are flawed. Real people are inconsistent. Real people have limits to their patience, their generosity, their understanding. And anyone who seems perfect is hiding something massive. Jung discovered through decades of clinical observation that the nicer the mask, the darker the shadow beneath it. The more someone insists they're always kind, always patient, always understanding, the more you should worry about what they're repressing. Because all that denied darkness doesn't just disappear. It doesn't magically transform into light. It builds up pressure. And eventually, it has to come out. It has to erupt. And when it does, it's catastrophic. When the mask finally slips, when the shadow finally erupts, it's devastating. Jung documented cases where the kindest, most gentle, most perfect people would suddenly become cruel beyond imagination. Not because they changed, but because the real them, the shadow they'd been denying for years or decades, finally broke through the defenses. And when it breaks through, it's not proportional. It's not measured. It's explosive. It's everything they've been holding back unleashed all at once. Jung called this phenomenon enantiodromia, the tendency of things to change into their opposite when taken to an extreme. A teaching illustration based on Jung's therapeutic observations shows this pattern clearly. Imagine someone who's been the perfect spouse for 20 years. Never raises their voice, never complains, never asks for anything, just endlessly patient, endlessly understanding, endlessly giving, always supportive, always accommodating, always putting their partner's needs first. Then one day, something small happens, a forgotten anniversary, a minor criticism about dinner, something that, in any normal relationship, would be a brief disagreement and nothing more. And suddenly this perfect person transforms. They don't just get angry. They say things designed to destroy. They reveal resentments from 15 years ago. They bring up every mistake, every flaw, every moment of disappointment. Things you didn't even know bothered them. Things they claimed were fine at the time. They've been keeping score for decades. And now it all comes out at once, with the force of 20 years of repressed rage, disappointment, and resentment. That's the shadow eruption Jung warned about. And the reason it's so devastating is because nobody saw it coming. Everyone believed the mask. Everyone thought this person was genuinely that perfect, that patient, that understanding. But Jung knew the truth. The mask was never real. It was just a lid on a pressure cooker. And when that lid finally blows, everything in range gets destroyed. Relationships, families, careers, reputations, lives. Here's what makes this pattern so dangerous from a psychological perspective. These people aren't lying to you, not consciously. They're lying to themselves. And that means they'll do anything to keep the lie alive. They'll rewrite history. They'll deny reality. They'll manipulate your perception. They'll sacrifice you, your reputation, your sanity, whatever it takes to avoid facing the truth about themselves. Because facing that truth would mean the death of their identity. The mask is all they have. Without it, they don't exist. They don't know who they are. Jung said the danger isn't that they're deceiving you. The danger is that they're deceiving themselves so completely that they can't tell the difference anymore. And when you can't tell the difference between your mask and your face, between your performance and your reality, you become capable of terrible things, all while believing you're the good guy, all while believing you're the victim, all while believing everyone else is the problem. So how do you protect yourself? How do you spot these people before they can do damage? Jung's answer was profound. Conscious awareness. You have to trust your gut over their perfect words. When someone seems too perfect, when every interaction feels performed, when your instinct tells you something's off, even though you can't prove it, listen to that instinct. Don't talk yourself out of it. Don't let their perfect behavior convince you you're wrong. That's your unconscious, picking up on what your conscious mind can't yet see. Real people are inconsistent. Real people have bad days. Real people sometimes say the wrong thing or show the wrong emotion. Real people forget things. Real people get tired and short-tempered sometimes. Real people have limits to their patience. Real people say no sometimes without elaborate explanations. Real people are messy and complicated and contradictory. And that's beautiful. That's human. That's trustworthy, because it means they're not hiding everything real behind a mask. It means there's an actual person there, not just a performance. The people identified with the persona, the unconscious ones, are the ones who never slip up. The ones who are always on. The ones who perform perfection like it's their job. Because for them, it is their job. It's the only thing holding their entire psychological structure together. One crack in the mask, and their whole identity crumbles. So they can't afford to be real. They can't afford to be human. They can't afford to show weakness, imperfection, inconsistency. And that makes them dangerous. Because anything that threatens the mask threatens their existence. And they'll destroy that threat by any means necessary. Jung spent his life studying the human psyche. And one of his most important discoveries was this: the people who seem the most put together are often the most broken. The people who seem the most kind are often hiding the most cruelty underneath. The people who seem the most trustworthy are often the most dangerous to get close to. Not always, but often enough that you should pay attention. Often enough that the appearance of perfection should make you more cautious, not less. Because seeing the truth doesn't make you cynical. It makes you conscious. It makes you powerful. It gives you the ability to protect yourself from people who would use your trust, your kindness, your desire to see the best in others as weapons against you. It gives you the ability to spot the warning signs before you get too invested, too attached, too vulnerable. Jung believed that the unconscious always reveals itself. Always. You just have to know what to look for. And now you do. You know about identification with the persona. You know about uncanny perfection. You know about the lack of vitality in their presence. You know about ego inflation and defense mechanisms. You know about shadow projection. You know about the savior complex. You know about enantiodromia and the shadow eruption. These aren't just abstract psychological concepts. They're survival tools, because the most dangerous people in your life won't announce themselves with obvious red flags. They won't walk in wearing a sign that says, "I'm going," to manipulate and destroy you. They'll walk in wearing the mask of exactly what you've been looking for. They'll be perfect. They'll be everything you wanted. And if you don't know how to see through that mask, you'll let them in. You'll trust them. You'll believe them. And by the time you realize what they really are, the damage will already be done. But you're not defenseless anymore. You know the signs. You know the pattern. You know what Jung spent decades learning through painful clinical observation and personal experience during his own confrontation with the unconscious. People identified with the persona reveal themselves not through their imperfections, but through their perfections, through the things they never do, through the emotions they never show, through the consistency that's just a little too consistent, through the kindness that's just a little too calculated. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Trust your gut, trust your instinct, trust that uncomfortable feeling that something's off, even when you can't explain why. Because that feeling is your unconscious mind doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Protecting you from psychological danger that your conscious mind hasn't caught up to yet. Your unconscious picks up on micro-expressions, inconsistencies, patterns that your conscious mind misses. Listen to it. If you've ever felt that gut instinct about someone, if you've ever known something was wrong even though everything seemed right, comment "I see the mask" below. Because Jung was right. The ability to see what others miss isn't a curse. It's a gift. It's consciousness developing. And the more people who develop that consciousness, the harder it becomes for unconscious people to harm others. The more people who understand these patterns, the less effective the mask becomes. If this opened your eyes to patterns you've experienced in your own life, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights into Jung's psychology. Because understanding human nature isn't just interesting, it's essential. It's how you protect yourself, your relationships, and your sanity in a world where many people are unconscious of their own shadow. It's how you tell the difference between someone who's genuinely integrated and someone who's performing integration. And that difference could save your life. In The Alchemist's Path, perception training for empaths, you'll turn overwhelm into wisdom with practical drills, Jung-inspired boundaries, and step-by-step perception training. This guide includes 3 exclusive chapter videos to deepen each lesson. Written by Surreal Mind, 236 pages, beautifully designed 8.5 by 11 downloadable ebook, in stock now. Start your training today. Feel deeply while thinking clearly. Get The Alchemist's Path at thesurrealmind.com.